My house was built at the end of the 1930s, and construction was completed in 1940. Since I live in Germany, the owner of the house was drafted into the war, and the house was immediately turned into a prisoner of war camp by the Nazis. The owner died in World War II in 1944, so the house was used as a prison camp from 1941 to 1945, when the Nazi regime fell. After that, the house was likely abandoned for many years before being renovated in the 1980s. One part of the house was torn down and rebuilt, but this was likely just a small portion. The majority of the house remains the original structure. Given this history, it's very likely that many people died here. Now, I'll explain what has been happening. Often, when I'm sitting in my room on a chair, I feel a hand touching my shoulder, which disappears as soon as I turn around. It's not a hard grab, just a soft touch. Sometimes, when I'm lying in bed trying to fall asleep, I suddenly feel someone petting my back. Or when I'm home alone with my mom, I hear someone walking around on the second floor of the house, constantly moving around in the room above me. I decided to ask my mom what she was looking for, but she was puzzled because she was sitting in the living room on the same floor as I was. It often happens that I hear footsteps around the house while everyone else is in the living room. Also, sometimes I can see half of the house light up with white blue lights, seemingly out of nowhere. It can't be a light because we only have yellowish LEDs, and there are no other LEDs bright enough to illuminate the entire area. Additionally, sometimes at night, there's a very loud noise that sounds like a slap. No, it's not a gunshot from outside or the creaking of the wood in the house. I initially thought it was just my mind playing tricks on me and never mentioned it. But one late evening, while cuddling on the couch with my girlfriend, she suddenly twitched and looked shocked. She asked me, almost crying, "Did you see that too?" I hadn't seen anything because I was looking in a different direction. She said there was a white face behind my monitor on my desk, staring at her without a body. Since then, she has seen other things in my house, but hasn't told me about them. A few days ago, I let my dog outside and left her alone in the kitchen to watch over him while I went upstairs to get something. When I came downstairs again, she asked me, "What? Weren't you in the bathroom?" Confused, I asked her what she meant. She said she saw someone in the bathroom and wondered why I didn't turn on the lights. She was so shocked that I asked her if I should check the bathroom. She told me to be careful, and I did, but no one was there. There's absolutely no way someone could have left the bathroom without her noticing, so there definitely was nobody there, but she's certain she saw someone. The next day, we were walking through the dark corridor from my bedroom to the bathroom when she suddenly gripped my arm and pulled me into the bathroom, telling me to hurry. I was confused, and then she said she saw a woman in a dirty old dress standing in our dining room, looking out the window. At first, she wasn't sure if she was seeing things, but after staring for a while, she was certain there was someone standing there. Many people might think this is made up, but it's not. All the things I've told you about actually happened in this house to me or my girlfriend. I had just moved into a new apartment complex in a quiet part of town. It was one of those places where everyone keeps to themselves and barely acknowledges each other's existence. Unit 402 was small but cozy, perfect for a fresh start after my divorce. The rent was cheap, the neighbors were quiet, and it had a great view of the city skyline. Little did I know, that apartment would become the setting for my worst nightmare. It started on a Wednesday night. I had just settled into bed with a good book when the power went out. The sudden darkness was unsettling, but I figured it was just a minor blackout. I reached for my phone to use its flashlight, but as I turned it on, I saw something in the corner of the room. It was faint, a shadowy figure standing perfectly still. My heart pounded as I tried to focus on it, but it vanished as quickly as it had appeared. I chalked it up to my imagination, a trick of the light in my sleep-deprived state. But then I heard it, a soft whisper, barely audible, but unmistakably real. It sounded like it was coming from the living room. I mustered the courage to get up and investigate, my phone's flashlight leading the way. As I entered the living room, the whispering stopped. The air felt colder, heavy with an unexplainable dread. I scanned the room, but nothing seemed out of place. The power came back on suddenly, startling me. I let out a nervous laugh, trying to convince myself that it was all just a figment of my imagination. I decided to go back to bed and try to get some sleep. The next morning, I woke up feeling uneasy, but shrugged it off as a bad dream. However, the following night, the power went out again at exactly the same time. This time, I was prepared. I had a flashlight and some candles ready. As soon as the lights went out, I lit a candle and waited. The shadowy figure appeared again, this time closer, near the foot of my bed. My breath caught in my throat as I watched it, frozen in place. The whispering started again, clearer this time. It sounded like multiple voices, all speaking in a hushed, urgent tone. I couldn't make out what they were saying, but the sound was enough to send chills down my spine. The figure moved closer, and I could see it more clearly now. It was tall, with long, bony fingers and hollow eyes that seemed to pierce through me. I screamed, and the figure vanished once more as the power returned. I couldn't take it anymore. I packed a bag and left the apartment, deciding to stay with a friend until I figured out what was going on. I told my friend about the strange occurrences, and she suggested we look up the history of the apartment. What we found was horrifying. Unit 402 had a dark past. Years ago, a man had died there under mysterious circumstances. He was a recluse, rarely seen by the neighbors. When the police finally broke into his apartment, they found strange symbols drawn on the walls and evidence of occult rituals. The official cause of death was never determined, but locals believed he had summoned something dark that still lingered in the apartment. Terrified, I went back to the apartment during the day to collect my things. As I packed, I could feel eyes on me, a presence watching my every move. I hurried, desperate to leave and never return. As I was about to leave, I heard a whisper right next to my ear. "You can't escape." I ran out, leaving the door wide open behind me. I moved in with my friend temporarily and found a new place a few weeks later. I never went back to Unit 402, and I don't think I ever will. Every now and then, I hear whispers in the dark, and I can't shake the feeling that something followed me from that cursed apartment. To this day, I wonder if anyone else has moved into Unit 402, and if they too have encountered the shadowy figure and the whispering voices. My parents had built their dream house in a new subdivision at the time. They had chosen a lot that did not have any neighbors yet, and the history of the place was still unknown. I remember the first day we moved into the home. Something about it felt off, especially in my and my sister's room. Our rooms were the corner rooms on the second floor, and we shared a balcony. My parents had also built a small nook space next to the windows where it was long and wide enough for you to either sit or lay in. On our first night there, I had fallen asleep on my phone, lying on the mattress on the floor since there was no bed frame yet. I was a light sleeper, so despite being asleep, I could feel like something was at my feet, as if someone was holding my ankles down. I managed to sleep through the night, but the feeling never went away, even after a few days had passed. Terrified, I convinced my sister to let me sleep with her in her room the following night. Her bed was positioned next to the wall, and I had moved my mattress next to hers, with my back facing the window. Around 2 a.m., I woke up, and that unsettling feeling started creeping in again. I wanted to shake it off and needed confirmation that it was nothing, so I took a peek. All I could see was what seemed like a dark figure standing in front of our window. Alarm bells rang because our rooms were on the second floor, and there was no one else upstairs since my parents' rooms were downstairs. A few seconds later, I could hear tapping on the window, but refused to look back. I tried to quietly wake my sister up, but she only shifted her position and turned to the wall instead. I was too scared to get up because of the terror I felt. Instead, I inched closer to my sister and turned my back, pretending to be asleep despite hearing the taps. In the following nights, cousins or friends who visited our house would report hearing a woman crying and the same tapping noise whenever they slept in the upstairs rooms. Our rooms were often used as guest rooms, and if both were occupied, we would sleep with my parents. My parents often laughed or shrugged it off because they didn't believe in the paranormal or the afterlife. One day, while talking to the guard on duty on our way to the jogging path, my mom mentioned that we were new in the area and where we resided. From the guard's reaction, we could tell he was familiar with our residence. He told us that before the area was made into a subdivision, there were houses in the area, and just like now, the house built on our property had been isolated. A mom, her husband, and their 3-year-old daughter had lived in the house. The house had caught on fire on the first floor and was spreading upstairs when the family awoke to the smoke. Their daughter was sleeping in what is now my sister's room, while the wife and husband had slept in what was now my room. Their room door had melted shut, and the mom had used the balcony door to try to reach her 3-year-old's bedroom, but it too had melted shut. She attempted to save her daughter, banging on the window in hopes of waking her up. Despite her husband's attempts to get them both out of the house, she refused to leave, trapping all 3 of them in the fire, resulting in all of them passing away. I couldn't help but wonder if the shadow, tapping on the window, and the sound of a woman crying were from the same woman who had died in the house, desperately trying to save her baby, but failing. That night, as I tried to sleep, I could envision the mom wailing in front of the window frame, banging on the glass, the noises slowly fading to taps and weakened cries as the fires consumed her and her family. Thanks for watching our video. Have you ever had a really scary experience? We want to hear about it. You can tell us in 2 ways. Option 1 is, write down what happened and email it to us. The email address is in the description below. We're excited to read your story and learn all about what happened. And the second option is, record your story using your phone's recording feature. Make sure the sound is good, with no background noise. We want to make sure everyone can hear your scary story clearly. Pick whichever option works best for you, and let's explore your spooky experiences together. We're looking forward to hearing from you. And if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel.